Hey guys, it's Emily and I am back with another speed build. This one I wanted to give myself a little bit of a challenge. Normally I largely focus on creativity. If you've seen any of my other speed builds, I definitely am a creative builder as opposed to maybe kind of a more traditional builder, like traditional homes. But so I wanted to give myself the challenge of building a starter home with the secondary challenge of using debug in order to decorate. So that's what I have done in today's speed build. That's why it's the Debug Starter Home. I also was hoping to go for 8 bedrooms. Didn't quite pull that off. We ended up with 7 bedrooms, and that's okay with me because, you know, I came close. So maybe one day I will try this challenge again and make sure that I get 8 bedrooms, but for now we have a 7 bedroom and a 2 bathroom. I would also love to see this possibly as a tiny home, but I didn't try to add that to this challenge right now. So you'll see me here. I'm just trying to figure out my room placement, my ratios. Again, just trying to work in those 7 bedrooms. I also wanted to have it be kind of creative. Again, like we have some, that little hallway, that kind of weird shape is ending up being a hallway. Like I could easily do this if I made them all square, but that doesn't, I guess, fulfill the challenge for me, the creative challenge. So I wanted to kind of have it, you know, be my own style at the same time. So it's not just, you know, square boxes. I wanted it to be a little bit of a creative challenge for me. We ended up having 1 toddler room and 1 baby room. The bassinet in the baby room is actually the debug one, so I don't know if it's functional or not. I didn't play test that, but if it's not, you'll get a free one with your berth, so I figured it wasn't that big a deal. Right now it's kind of just set dressing, and whether or not you can use it would kind of be a moot. And then again we have 2 toddler beds, so there is enough room, bedrooms and room to have 8 Sims. So if you had a full family, you could change out the beds or whatever. But this is a starter home. It is under $20,000, and including the, I guess it depends on the lot that you place it on, because some lots are more expensive than others. But the one that I have it on, and some of the cheaper lots, will make sure that it's under the $20,000 starter home for y'all. I definitely wanted to have, again, the roofing, just have some interesting lines. I didn't want to just have a kind of a roof just plopped on top, and so you know, I tried to work in some interesting lines to give it some basically like curb appeal. And then again, it has plenty of windows, but I went with some of the cheapest windows. The door, the same thing. Just trying to be really mindful of the pricing on everything. And I have literally never done that before in all the years that I've been playing The Sims, well, The Sims 4 anyway, and building. I have never paid attention to price on anything. And so this was a new challenge to me. I really enjoyed it. But it's really difficult, and making some hard choices, like, you know, prioritizing X over Y over Z. That was really difficult, but I did enjoy it. Again, just choosing the cheapest wallpapers. I know I have to have some wall coverings, but I have to choose from the $2 ones and not the 3 or 4 or 5. And so we went that way. It's maybe not the way I would choose to decorate, you know, if I wasn't paying attention. So we ended up with some kind of interesting colors throughout, but you know, I think it works. And again, this is a starter home, so for it to be, you know, this big beautiful home is not realistic. But I really am pleased with the way I was able to use the debug items to kind of make it feel cluttered and lived in. Again, we have the 2 bathrooms. Some areas I cluttered more than others just because I was kind of keeping to a theme of, you know, like this 1 bedroom we have like trains and cars and some of the Star Wars items. that were free as kind of the focus of the shelves that I create. And then this one here with the green and the brown plaid bedspread, that one we kind of focused a little bit more on games and sports. There are a couple, I think I ended up putting a couple of robots in there, but for the most part I was trying to keep with the theme. The purple and green room there, we ended up doing a dollhouse. You'll see that I didn't have the money for an actual dollhouse, but what I did was I shrunk down one of the debug items so it looks like a dollhouse. And again, we're using the tool mod to make some of these happen. You do not need that mod in your game for this to be placed correctly. It is on the gallery, and you can download it. It is not flagged as custom content just because, you know, those items exist in the game, and even though I've modified them using a mod, the game still recognizes them as, you know, in-game objects. So that is the awesome thing about that mod. I don't build without it. The only time I've built without it is for the Spark challenges. And man, that is so challenging. I've been using the tool mod over a year, and trying to build without it now is just crazy. It's crazy hard for me to do. Just one, for creative reasons, and then two, just sizing. Like, I've really utilized it to size objects appropriately in the way that I want. Like I said, that dollhouse. You know, sometimes an item like a rug, for example, I want to use a specific rug, and if I size it up or down according to the standard game limitations, it's too big or too small. But with the tool mod, I can size it up just a little bit or size it down just a little bit so it perfectly fits the space I'm going for. So there's so many things you can do with that mod. The designer of the mod is Twisted Mexi, and he has tutorials on it. So if you want to check out the things that it can do, which are many different things, definitely his tutorial is the best out there. You know, I've thought about making tutorials on different things, and in that instance, his is far superior than anything I could do. And you know, I still really recommend it. If you are a builder and you haven't tried it out, definitely try it out. Again, here I'm just using debug plants, trying to keep kind of a color scheme. I am a gardener, and I know I really like the concepts of keeping color schemes together and using different textures. And the awesome thing here, I use this nifty knitting rug throughout the entire build, and that's because it is $0, which I am so pleased with. Like, I couldn't believe when I saw that. I was like, okay, this rug is going in every room. I try to utilize different colors in each room just to keep it, even though it's the same rug, to keep it kind of interesting. Here's our baby room. We created that changing table. It is a dresser that I placed a seat inside. This was a challenge for me because both of those items together were quite a bit of money, and to have them, well, not be functional, like you can't use that seat, was kind of was challenging for me to do. I am a frugal person in real life, and so to kind of create this piece of furniture that you can't actually use was kind of difficult for me to spend the money that way. But I like the look of it, and part of this build was challenging myself to keep within that budget, like I said, but still fill up these rooms. And I couldn't think of really anything else to put in the baby room. Maybe a rocking chair would be appropriate, but you know, that kind of filled up and makes sense. And we needed to have a usable dresser, so I do believe that is the only dresser in the house. So, you know, in that way it was worth the money. Here in the master bedroom, filling up these shelves, again repeating items. I think it kind of makes sense from a decorating point of view, but also keeping the color scheme in this particular one. We're sticking to those neutrals, the browns, the off-whites, and here I discovered these boards for apartments create a perfect frame for those pictures that you get. I believe they're with Parenthood, and so I use those throughout the build just to create our artwork for free. Here just placing a little bathroom clutter to make it feel live-in. using that red shelf again to get things to the perfect height. Again, that's not part of this build. I just use it when I'm creating, so you don't need that of any sort to have this build render properly if you download it from the gallery. Using those debug wood planks to create shelves, kind of modern looking shelves, and you know, I utilize that a lot in I think almost all the rooms to kind of create a filled up wall. Like again, that's how we're using the clutter. The debug items in the clutter is to create these kind of shelf units, just because when you don't have the money to buy a lot of furniture or buy a lot of artwork, I was trying to figure out how I'm going to make these rooms feel live-in and full. And that was kind of the way I came up with, is to have some of this debug clutter items on these shelves to kind of, again, make it feel lived in, and but also to portray like individual, like the rooms, everybody's individual interests. And so again, like I said, this one, maybe he's into some Star Wars items, he's got some Star Wars collectible games, he's got some of the robots, or she. In my mind it was a he. But then also some of these sports items, like obviously they're into the gaming, they're in a little bit into the sports. And then we have some spray paint there as well. Just kind of, again, trying to bring out a personality in that room. And so we have some of those spray paint items. Maybe they're a little bit creative, maybe they're, you know, tagging some things, like doing graffiti as part of their interests, a part of the like gaming tags, or who knows. So the paint was kind of random, but I liked the shape, trying to balance the shapes and fill that space up. This room here, I think I was influenced a little bit by the new pack, the Snowy Escape. I'm really super excited for that pack. I think by the time this video comes out, the pack may actually have come out. Let me try and think here. Yeah, so it's either the weekend before or the weekend after that this video will come out, and I'm really excited to play with it. That pack, initially I was kind of worried about, you know, everybody saying that the items should have been in seasons, but I think there's enough of other stuff that, at least for me personally, that I don't mind it being its own pack. I'm really super excited to find out more about the lifestyles and sentiments. You know, personality in The Sims is definitely something that, especially compared to other games, I feel is, you know, really lacking. And so I hope that provides kind of a more rich diversity in our Sims, and not having all the Sims feel you know, like the same person. Like, you know, I normally play like a pretty positive Sim, you know, somebody who wants to achieve things, is positive, is a good person kind of thing. But I recently made a Sim who is evil and, you know, just kind of the more stereotypical negative traits. And I started playing with her, and she literally was the same as my other Sims. I couldn't believe it. There was really no difference other than some of the options. And if I utilized those, that's, you know, it made a tiny bit of difference. If I chose like the evil interactions, affected basically relationships a little bit faster. But yeah, I was just really surprised at how similar they are, because normally, like I said, I play the kind of the same type of Sim, maybe a different aspiration, but so that was really kind of shocking to see. And I hope that this new feature brings, like I said, more diversity in our Sims. Here is the toddler room. Just kind of, again, trying to find some toys that are free. So I think that the panda there they can play with, but it's going to look really funny because it's supposed to be, you know, the size of their hand, and I've enlarged it to kind of fill up the space like a big stuffy. And instead, when they hold it, I imagine when they hold it, it's going to be this big huge thing. So that could be kind of amusing. I wanted to use that big dinosaur that you find in Oasis Springs, and so we size it down using the tool mod, so that it looks more like a toy size. you know, and I really was kind of tickled I was able to do that. Again, the trains here, again, we're going to size them down using the tool mod for decorations only. But this is the room I was talking about, that we have kind of the trains, the cars, the Star Wars items. We ended up sizing everything down. Of course, there are the collectible Star Wars items, but those are not free, whereas these larger ones that are set dressing in the Journey to Batuu are actually free because they're a debug item. And so that's why I chose to use those rather than the actual collectible ones. Totally makes sense to me for when we're trying to keep it a starter home, but we want to have some clutter, we want to fill it up, that we're going to use debug items pretty much over everything. Again, those yarnies are free as well, so I think a lot of the handmade items that are in the pack, or at least a handful of them, are free. And so I use those, you know, kind of repeated around the house to just kind of fill everything up and, you know, make it feel like a kid's room with these stuffed animals, the stuffies. This one I was trying to think of what this particular bedroom could be focused on, and we ended up largely going with kind of arts and crafts. And so you'll see here that I'm adding, again, the paint cans. We ended up adding like the paints and glitter and things like that. Oh, we're still doing this room. And so, yeah, this one is definitely focused. You know, I kind of tried to make them not specifically male or female, so whatever family you have, you know, or if they're non-binary, that they could kind of work for everyone. You know, so that was really kind of trying to keep it neutral as possible. Here you'll see are the houses. These are debug houses that I'm using the tool mod to size down, and again, to kind of make it look like a dollhouse. It's not functional as a dollhouse, of course, but at least it kind of fills up that room. And as your sim earns money and is able to actually buy a dollhouse, you definitely can just replace that. So here's the room I was talking about that's really arts focused. Just using the paint cup and the paintbrush, and, you know, kind of trying to fill it out, make it feel lived in, make it feel like it has personality. So we're using a lot of free items that kind of fit the theme. You see we have the horn there, we have that big green thing, I can't remember what that's called, but, you know, I wanted up there on the top the personality that maybe this person also is kind of a jokester. So they have some of those whimsical items. I could have put a couple other items up there that would fit that theme, but they cost money, and again, just trying to cut corners everywhere I can. Here we're creating kind of these crayons in a cup by turning them with the tool mod and then positioning them in the cup, in just to kind of feel like it's full up there and create our own unique item to fill up that space. I really enjoy kind of creating my own items like that. So that is what we're doing for this, finding more robots that are free. So you see on that red shelf, I'm just finding these items that I know I'm going to want to use elsewhere. And so I was just placing them on that red shelf and dragging them from room to room as I envision it. I saw that these items are all floating, and so we used that, the tool mod to just kind of tweak it up a little bit. If we had used the in-game raising, then it would have been too high, and so with the tool mod I can elevate it to just the perfect height. You'll see there that I had that TIE fighter. When you shrink it down, it has lights on it, and so the lights don't actually shrink down. So I saw those red lights, I don't know if you saw it, but the red lights that were kind of in a circle around the house, and I was trying to figure out where the heck these lights are coming from, and it's the TIE fighter, and so we did end up getting rid of that, unfortunately, so we just have the two Star Wars ships that are in there. This living room here, I went with kind of a fisherman theme, so we have that fish mounted on the wall, we have the lighthouse for a lamp, and then we have that sailor on the shelf. Again, just trying to create a mood, create kind of a personality in each of these areas. The kitchen, you know, was kind of difficult because, you know, if you don't have all the kitchen appliances, I'm using the cheap countertops, you know. So it was really kind of challenging to make a kitchen feel full and lived in without having some of the more advanced items, and also trying to minimize the amount of countertops I'm using. So again, it's not going to be, being a starter home, it's not going to be fancy. It's just not. And but also trying to make it look appealing. Again, like you can see the stove there. I didn't choose the very cheapest stove. I think this is the second one up. But I couldn't choose any of the nicer stoves. So it's really kind of a plain Jane kitchen. Again, for a starter home, I guess that's not unexpected. But for me, it was really a challenge because I'm used to, you know, not worrying about the price of anything and going just for aesthetics, just for creativity. And again, just trying to create some unique items. I wanted to have a little plant life up there, like we have the plant life in the corner on the counter there, but then also repeating the pattern of having those kind of green objects. And, you know, I feel like plants really bring a build to life. And so I wanted to have that incorporated. I did play test this. That stove does work. You'll see here that I'm lowering the counters a little bit so that they don't show through the stove, and the Sims are able to utilize all the objects just fine. So as long as you're not moving those objects, it should place just accurately. Like I have adjusted it with the tool mod, and as long as you have move objects on, definitely with this build we gotta have those move objects on. But you know, everything is functional, so that's great. Again, like I said, I didn't play test the crib or the bassinet in the baby room, but I don't think, even if it's not functional, I don't think that's an issue, just because you'll get one with when you have a birth. It comes with a free bassinet, so you can change that out if that's the case. Again, wanted to have some basic skilling items. So we have the TV, and you can learn a couple of different skills on the TV. The cooking for one, and then I think children, or maybe there's a comedy. I can't remember all the skills. I don't use the TV very often for skill building. And then we have a gaming table. Out here, that table and chairs is non-functional. Again, just trying to use these items to make it feel lived in. But once you earn money, you definitely can upgrade. I wanted to have functional laundry. I wanted to have a fully functional kitchen. And I wanted to have some skill building. I think you may have noticed I put a soccer ball in the room that has like the sports and the gaming. We did end up taking that soccer ball out as a way to save on some money. It was just enough over that it was, and it was registering as not being a starter build, and so I wanted to try and cut those things that I could. So there are a few less skill building than I had really wished, but again, all these items here are free. They're debug items, and we're just using them to create that lived-in look. But we do have functional laundry. This front garden here, we ended up going with a red theme. I ended up mistakenly, I had it filtered out to hide the maxis, because when you use this mod by Twisted Mexi, the advanced debug, I can't remember what it's called right now, but you're able to filter out all the maxis items. And so you'll see here I use these lupins because they were showing up once I had filtered out, but I realized that they're actually not free even though they're showing up in the debug. So we ended up switching them out. In the cinematic pass, you can see that we have different flowers there, but I was just trying to cut a few things to make it fit under that starter home. I had just gone over a little bit, so it was really heartbreaking having to delete some of those skilling items, especially. But it was definitely a challenge, and I really enjoyed doing this. I look forward to doing another one. Again, like I said, maybe with a tiny home trait. That would be really difficult, especially if I try and do 8-bedroom tiny home. I don't know if that's possible, but I might give it a go here. So, just trying again, do the landscaping, make it feel really lush and lived in, and not like a starter home. Like a lot of starter homes, you wouldn't have such extravagant, flowers and landscaping, but just trying to really utilize that debug. I'm so glad they unlocked that because people are just loving using those items since they're free. And with that, guys, I want to thank you for watching. I hope you're doing well and you're having a great day. And stay safe out there. Definitely, wear your mask, practice your social distancing, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.